All right, everybody. Here's Jason getting me my hot peppermint mocha.
So, we're all gonna die. Eventually.
As morbid as that sounds, Jason and I talk about it all the time because we want to be prepared in case either one of us passes away.
So, I don't know why we didn't do this sooner, but I guess part of it had to do with the fact that we just had so much going on in our lives with our son being born, us trying to settle into our home, us trying to start our business and do everything with the YouTube channel. We just never found the time to do all of this, which is crazy because it only took us like an hour to do each of our term life insurances.
And I feel like because we talk about it all the time, because Jason and I discuss, well, if what I need to do if he were to pass away, exactly step by step, Jason, finally had a talk with his coworker. His coworker was saying, this is what you had to do. It was a lot easier than, Jason thought.
Yeah, so credit to my coworker. You know who you are.
Yeah, so we just got here in UPS. We're just dropping off a package. But yeah, we'll continue.
Here she comes.
Well, you're welcome. Oops, so sorry. Okay, here we are. Let me just take a picture of this.
Okay, so I had a talk with my coworker about term life insurance, and she convinced me that we should get it because it'll give you peace of mind if something were to happen to you or to your spouse. And she told me that she was paying, I think it was like $55 a month or $50 a month for her husband's policy, which was, I believe, like $1 million policy or something like that. Don't quote me on this, but she was paying $50 or $55 for his, and then I believe $65 or so for hers. Well, as soon as I came home that day, I spoke to Monica about it, and I told her that maybe it would be a good idea if we had our own policies.
Right.
Because the one thing that gives me anxiety is when we don't have money in our bank account and it feels like we're living paycheck to paycheck, or if something were to happen to me and we don't know what Monica would do financially. So, I went online. Because my friend, she got her policy through Progressive. But we have Geico insurance for a car, and we currently have 3 cars insured. So I decided to just go on Google and type in Geico term life insurance. And the first link on Google takes you to this Geico term life insurance page where they can provide you with different quotes from various term life insurance companies. And I decided to fill out the form just to see how much it would cost us if we were to do, let's say, like a 25 and a 30-year policy. Because right now, I am going to be 39. Monica's going to be 36 this year.
This year.
So I figured maybe if we can get a policy that would pay out until I'm old enough to cash out from my 401k and all of our retirement accounts, that would be enough to make sure that Monica's going to be covered if something were to happen to me. And for Monica, her policy is going to be a 30-year policy. So she'll be covered until she is 64. Same with me, 64 for me, 64 for her. We could have gotten a 59, like a policy that would cover us until we're 59 because, if you have your 401k, you can cash out at 59 and a half. But I figured, what's another few years going to do, right? It's only a few more years. So we got this 25-year policy for myself and the 30-year policy for Monica. Anyways, so the policy payout amount is, or what they call the death benefit, is $1.5 million for me and $1 million for Monica.
Cha-ching! I'm trying to find ways to kill you!
Okay,
Kidding.
The reason why we went...
Because I'm cheap! That's why.
So yeah, well, the reason why we went with a $1 million policy for Monica and 1.5 for me is because I'll figure it out with less money if something were to happen to Monica. Whereas I personally feel like she's gonna need a lot more money to figure it out. Because we literally spent like an hour in the car just discussing our plans of what we would do if something were to happen to me and I passed.
I need to know every single detail. Like what am I gonna do with the kids? What am I gonna do with the house? Right, go on.
So we're plotting it out over here, and I'm telling Monica, okay, listen, if I pass, you're gonna get a policy that's $1.5 million, tax-free, because you don't have to pay taxes on a life insurance policy. And
as it should be.
Yeah, as it should be, right? And the beauty of it is, right, like she's paying, I believe it's like $56 per month.
For me?
For you. Yours
55. It says
55.
55.
Okay, so $55 per month, right? Multiply that by 12, that's $660 a year. You multiply that by the life of the policy, which is 30 years, and she literally pays $19,800 for a 30-year policy that pays out $1 million.
Oh, no, you know what? I have a question.
Yeah.
I never asked you this before. What happens if you miss a payment or multiple payments? So this is what Progressive says.
Yeah.
A term life insurance policy usually has no cash value. So once you miss a payment, the policy immediately moves into a grace period. If a payment isn't received by the end of the grace period, the policy lapses. Your beneficiaries will likely not be able to claim your death benefit, and you lose the premiums you've already paid. So you can't fuck around and find out.
But see, I would never plan
Yeah,
on missing out a payment
No, absolutely, yeah.
if you know you're gonna get $1.5 million by paying
Yeah.
$55 a month. Then why would you miss a payment?
So maybe you can say that instead of doing monthly, you ended up paying for the entire
Yeah.
year.
Yeah, so for my policy, I decided, and I didn't realize that I could have saved money on Monica's policy. I'll probably do this later. But if you make a annual payment as opposed to a monthly payment, you can save an additional 5 to 10% depending on the company that you go with. But for me personally, let's see how much I paid.
I'm gonna cut you off for a second there. The reason why I asked what happens if you miss a payment is because if I'm grieving, I'm not gonna be thinking about what bills am I gonna be paid. I'm
Wait.
in my grieving period. You know what I mean? If I'm doing monthly payments.
Like if
of
I
this.
already passed?
Yeah. I'm not gonna think about, I don't know. I don't wanna be focused on that.
Oh, well, I would be focused on that for sure.
Yeah, that's how much he cares about me, guys.
She just
No, I'm
said,
just saying.
she asked me what happens if I miss a payment because she's going to be in her grieving period. If I were to pass,
Honestly, if you lose like a loved one,
yeah.
the last thing you're gonna think about really is,
No,
what?
because that's the
Yeah.
very reason why you have it on auto payment.
Got you.
Yes.
Yeah.
You
I
set
mean,
it
you
up on
could.
autopilot.
could,
You
you
don't have to
absolutely
worry about it again. Okay? You're not going to be paying this manually
auto-
every single month.
payments.
Auto pay on everything. Okay. Yeah, but she just said that she's going to be grieving for me too much to be able to remember all these bills she has to pay. I highly doubt that she's going to be, well, maybe she's going to be celebrating.
Oh, shut up. God. He's saying this because when I found out his policy, I was like, oh, how do I find ways to get you killed? Yeah, I know.
Okay, but my policy, let me just pull over to the side so I can look it up because I don't want to be driving while I'm looking this up. Okay, I'm gonna park right over here in the corner.
Oh, by the way, guys, our car looks different. We are driving our OG Sparky. This is our little Manhattan clown car. It's a 4-passenger, 4-door car. It's a compact hatchback. It's super cute. It's 11 years old. So this car has really given us a lot of mileage. It's been reliable, knock on wood. Yeah, it's the best city car, especially if you live in New York City. It's really easy to park.
Oh man, I could park this car anywhere in New York City.
Because you have
It's
to
the best
parallel
thing ever.
park. Yeah, so it's 11 years old. What? How many miles?
It's currently got 86,000 miles, while our bigger car, the SUV that we have, it's a Volvo XC90, has like 110,000 miles on it.
We drive that car more because it's a lot more safer to drive with the family.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the annual payment for my policy is $1,195, which is a
That's
total.
pretty good.
Yeah, for a $1.5 million policy with a term of 25 years. Divide that by 12 months, I'm paying $99.58 per month.
Oh, I think we forgot to mention, in order for you to qualify on a certain policy, you have to meet some of the criteria, or a lot of the criteria.
That's
right. You can talk about how your coworker needed some blood work.
Yes. So if you're on medication, if you have any chronic illnesses that you're dealing with, they're not going to be able to approve your application online. You might need additional blood work or testing to be done in order for them to approve your policy. And your policy may be more expensive if you have chronic illnesses that you're dealing with.
I mean, obviously, they don't want to invest in you if you're a sickly person,
Yeah.
and you're about to die.
Also, if you participate in risky activities, like you skydive, and one of them was if you scuba dive more than 100 meters, that will cause them to have to send your application for review.
100
And
meters?
you won't be, 100 meters.
That's pretty deep because if
it is pretty deep.
we're PADI certified, we can only go down to 60 feet.
yeah.
But if you're an advanced diver, 100 feet. But that's in feet, not
In
meters.
feet, yeah.
So meters, that's pretty deep.
I know. And there were other things that were included in there. They ask you about your family history, like your mother's history, your father's history. If you have anybody in your family that has like any blood disorders, any kidney issues, any cardiovascular issues.
Which brings me to this question. I was asking Jason, like, can you lie about that?
No, you can't.
You cannot,
Yeah.
because if they find out,
Yeah.
you can get...
For every offense, there's a fine. For every offense, every single incident of you lying may result in you having to pay a like really hefty fine. And it can be anywhere from like $50,000 to $200,000 per penalty.
Try to be truthful, obviously.
What else do they ask? They ask you about your primary care visits and your specialty visits for the last 7 years. So if you've ever seen a doctor in the last 7 years, they want that information. So if you had anything other than a routine test, they need to know what that test was for, because they want to make sure that you're not going to see a doctor for like a syncopal episode that you had that might have been related to your heart or something like that.
So now that you said all those possible health issues, does it take into account whether or not you are a younger person or you're an older person?
Yeah, so your policy is going to be a lot less expensive if you're young. And I looked into this. You can, and again, this is not financial advice for anybody, okay? But I looked into it and it said that if you're 18 and older, you're able to get a policy. But for us, since we're already in our 30s, our policy is going to be more expensive than somebody who's in their early 20s. Now let's talk about the plan.
Yeah, so before Jason, this is why I was really like all for it, because, and I'm like, why did we do this, since we had our son? Because almost every other month, we always talk about this. I tell Jason, like, what if something happens to you? What am I supposed to do? What am I going to do with the house? I'm not as financially savvy as Jason. So I ask him step by step exactly what I need to do for me to survive with the kids. Because, we have 2 kids and we have our house. Even though we're debt free, we still owe like what, 500 and something for our house.
Yeah.
Our house is not paid off.
We owe about $560,000 on the house.
So what Jason initially wanted me to do was to have his mom move in with me, like full time, and still work here in California for as long as I could, and take a benefited position, maybe like a 24-hour or 32-hour. And of course, back when we didn't have this life insurance policy, I was like, okay, I guess I'm just gonna have to stomach that. And in the back of my head, I was saying, like, how can I survive here with no family and just me and Jason's mom, And I'm gonna be stuck here because it's gonna be much harder for me to live in New York if I'm if I'm a single earner and I have 2 kids. But when Jason told me about the life insurance policy, and now if something were to happen to him, if he passes away, and I get that 1.5 mil untaxed, that's enough money for me to be able to move myself and my kids back to New York. And that's where our village is. I have 0 family here. Jason doesn't have any family here in Sacramento. So I told him, babe, like, I'm gonna tell you right now, if I lose you, I don't have anybody here. And if I lose you, you're literally the only person I have here. And I have the kids, of course. I'm gonna be so depressed out here in Sacramento. It's just gonna be me and the kids. So I said, I need to be able to move back. So when he told me about this, he told me the plan. Go ahead and tell him exactly what you want me to do, because I trust him.
Well, what I said was, because we're gonna have, just currently at the moment, we have about 250,000, maybe more actually, in home equity. So if we were to sell our home right now, I think it'd be closer to $300,000.
Very close.
Yeah, especially because we just had a neighbor who sold her house for like 1.348 million.
And a smaller house.
Actually, no. So her house is like maybe 25 square feet.
Slightly smaller.
Larger than us.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's what it said. I looked it up. It was like 3,000 something.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay.
So her square footage is slightly larger than ours. Our home is 2,825 square feet. And she sold her house at a price per square footage of $444 per square foot, which means that if you convert the $444 by the number of square footage that our house has, and you only go by that number, but honestly, you don't have to, because we have more rooms than she does. She only had like 3 bedrooms and 3.5 bathrooms or something like that. Anyway, so if you go based on just the square footage alone, then our house would appraise for like 1.2 million something. And if it does actually appraise for that value and it sells for that value, we'd have more than $600,000, maybe $700,000 in equity. However, let's just say we only have $300,000 of equity. right? Because that's what we're estimating at the moment before we even consider selling
It's
it.
like just like a humble estimate.
Yes. So you take that $300,000 and then you take the 1.5 million. That's $1.8 million right there.
So my first question was to Jason is like, should I buy, should I rent, or should I put this money on the market, right?
Yes. And I said what I would do if I were her is I would put 1.5 million into the total stock market index or S&P 500 index fund. And she could continue to cash out 4% of that for the rest of her life. And
Numbers.
let me just pull up
Yeah.
over here.
We're doing this because you guys said you guys like this format.
Yeah.
So we're just gonna keep doing these.
All right, so I got the number here. If she were to pull out 4% per year, and that's just the 4% rule. If you guys don't know about it, you should look it up. The 4% rule states that if you were to pull out 4% of your retirement account or your investment on a yearly basis, it would keep up with inflation because let's say inflation is like 3%, right? And the stock market gives you a return of like 10%, right? So you still have 7% left over. As an example, when you account for inflation. And if you pull out 4% per year, you still have like a wiggle room of 3% left over to work with. Or if the stock market only performs at 7%, like you get a return of 7% and inflation is 3%, you only have 4% left over to work with. That's the money that you can pull out. So the 4% rule is something that everyone who like talks about the FIRE movement relies on when they're looking to retire early. So if she can live off $60,000
That's
per
yearly.
year,
Yeah.
which would actually be if she were in retirement though. That's the thing. When you reach retirement age, if you're pulling out $60,000 per year, you don't have to pay taxes on it. I believe it's 60,000, something like that. It's something like, I don't remember the exact number. I have to look it up.
So if I'm not working,
Yeah.
60 grand a year, well, that's untaxed or mostly untaxed.
Let's see.
So I know 60 grand doesn't sound like a lot to people, but if that's untaxed, to me, I think if my housing cost is covered, if like I already have money for rent or I already own a property, 60 grand, I can live with that because honestly, when Jason and I, when we were, when we make 300,000, whatever, a lot of that money goes either on investments or we put a lot of our money into traveling. And if I'm gonna be single and have 2 kids, I'm not gonna be traveling.
That's true.
So I think I could survive with 60 grand a year.
Also, one thing I should mention is because you're getting 1.5 million that's tax-free, you only pay taxes on the interest that you make from that 1.5 million. So you can continue to pull out your contribution, like the amount that you put in and not the amount that you're earning. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, which is great because she won't have to pay taxes on that when she pulls it out, the 60,000. So that would last her, let me see, if you do 60,000, 1.5 million, and you divide that by $60,000, that would last her basically 25 years. So for 25 years, you could pull out the principal amount that you've put into the stock market. You take this whole 1.5 million,
Yeah.
you put it in just like a couple of funds. The money that you put in, you could just withdraw that.
Actually, you know what's funny?
What?
I take back what I said with the 60 grand. Okay, so 60 grand with me not working, actually, I'm not quite sure because it depends how much health insurance is because I have to insure 3 of us.
Wait.
Right.
This is why I had
there's
the
more.
other part.
Okay.
This is why I had the other part of the plan.
Okay.
I told her that she needs to invest in rental properties. So I told her to take of the other $300,000 that she has, she can take maybe 150,000 or maybe 200,000. And I told her to make sure she keeps in contact with my brother because my brother is very financially savvy. His and his wife's net worth is higher than ours. And he makes like $300,000 a year, right? So I told her, because he also wants to invest in rental properties. And he's currently working on renting his own home because he's planning to move from their primary home to Georgia. So they're gonna rent out their primary home. I told her with about $200,000, ask him for help in securing some rental properties. And then she can just hire a property manager and he can help her with that. Hire a property manager so that they can manage the properties for her. And hopefully she can find some homes either in Georgia or in like the South or the Midwest that she can purchase for a very relatively low price. And I'm talking about maybe she can buy a multi-family apartment complex for $500,000, but only has to put down something like maybe $100,000. And she could buy 2 of those.
That doesn't answer my health insurance question.
Okay, this is where we go to the health insurance. Once you own a business, you can write off the cost of the premiums for your health insurance. And in addition to that, you can get a health savings account, right? Which is an account that
HSA.
allows you to pay money into this account that you can deduct any medical expenses tax-free. And that money is going to be invested in the market too.
So
Yeah.
on top of the 60 grand that I get yearly, I'm also gonna get rental property income.
Exactly.
So I should be okay.
Yeah, so that's why I said, yeah. So she can live off this $60,000 tax-free, but then she's going to also get, let's say, an additional maybe $2,000 to $5,000 per property that she owns, which could be anywhere from a total of $7,000 to maybe $10,000 per month from the properties and from the investments that she's going to have, which should be more than enough for her
So
to live
what
off
about
of.
our housing?
Housing. So you have the additional $100,000 to live off of. That's going to help you with housing for about 2 years or so, right? And in that time, you're going to work on increasing your income. And I told you that you should still continue to post on social media.
So he wants me to continue the channel and content creation, which honestly on YouTube sphere, it's not my
It's not your strong suit.
It's not my strongest suit. So I can do short form videos, but long term videos, it's so much work. I don't know, Jason, with these 3 years that he's been working on long form videos on YouTube, it took him so much work and so much time just for us to get 50,000 subs on YouTube. By the way, thank you guys. We just hit 50K on YouTube on our 3rd year anniversary. Pretty much.
Yeah, I think YouTube has aged me like 10 years in the last 3 years.
Yeah, so it's gonna be difficult for me to maintain YouTube, but I can maintain all the other platforms because again, we have our son, he's still little. If our kids weren't so little, yeah, it's doable. But my main focus is gonna be, the kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that answered the housing, health insurance, extra money that I can use. But what would you do if I die?
If you were to pass,
So-
I would do it very similar, honestly. I would do it very similar. But I wouldn't need my brother to help me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. He knows his stuff.
And I would still continue to post on social media. I might have to take a break for a while though, because obviously I'd be grieving too. It's gonna be hard for me to even post any videos,
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you guys, like I continue to post a lot of the times because Monica pushes me to continue to post.
Yeah, you have to. But anyways, like I would want him to continue on. And if something happens to me and I'm gone, yeah, no, you still have to do it. You have no choice. Yeah, but initially our disagreement was he wanted me to stay here. But I told him like, if I don't have you and I don't have anybody else here, it makes no sense for me. Because we get a lot of comments that say like, oh, why you guys want to move back to New York? Why you want to move back to New York? This and that. Honestly, we just booked a trip to Bora Bora finally. And you know how much it took for us to coordinate having my family fly out here, bring the kids to the East Coast, and then we'll have to bring the kids back over here. It's so complicated when you don't have family here.
Especially now that our family is actually...
They're all over the place now.
Yeah, we're going to have family in Georgia. We're going to have family in New York City.
We also have some family. He has his brother in Oakland.
Yeah.
So
we
we're
have
all
family
pretty
in Jersey.
spread out.
Yeah. So in order to coordinate this Bora Bora trip, we actually had to do a multi-city trip where we're going to have her mom fly out here, pick up our children, fly out to New York with a layover in Atlanta, Georgia.
To drop off the kids there.
And my mom and my brother and my siblings will pick up our kids at the airport in Atlanta while her mother continues her flight to New York City. And then when we're done with our trip in Bora Bora, we're going to come back to California. And then the next day, we're going to fly out to Georgia.
To pick up the kids.
And
then bring them to New York and spend time in New York. So this is exactly the reason why we need we need to move back because it's just impossible. When we moved here in California, we had no intention to have more children. Our son just happened. And our daughter, she's going to college. She would have never been an issue because she's an adult.
Yeah.
But now that we have our little one, it's just so much more harder, so much more difficult. I feel like we didn't really highlight that on our last video when we said we were going to move back to New York. But really, we need our village. So Jason took us here in Sutter's Landing. Look how lush it is right now. It's this time of the year where we got plenty of rain. So everything looks lush and green. It's probably also kind of muddy. I didn't bring any appropriate shoes. But we're gonna go for a little walk and show you this area because we always get people commenting, asking what are the things to do here? What are what can we do out here in Sacramento?
And we're going to record another video where we're going to talk about how we save money on taxes. So make sure you stay tuned so you can watch that video. Bye.